Welcome to Voices of eLearning with your host, J.W. Marshall
and Lena Marie Saleh,
a podcast that highlights the people who are changing the way we learn and grow.
Each week, we'll speak to the innovative minds who are pushing the boundaries and transforming online education.
We'll explore their stories and discover how they're empowering students around the globe to achieve success.
Join us on this journey and get inspired by the power of online learning. Welcome back to another episode of the Voices of eLearning. Today, I am rocking a solo episode. JW is out sick and you probably haven't seen us in a while. I am recently pregnant, so that's why we've been kind of on a little bit of a hiatus, but we are so excited to be joined by Nick Days, the CEO and founder of Heirloom. Nick, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Lena. Thank you. How are you?
Great. We always like to kick off each episode having our guests tell us a little bit about who you are and why you love what you do.
Who I am is a deeply philosophical question, Lena. Thank you. Who I am a dad. I am a gardener, but my professional background is in software design and development. So a little bit of coding and a lot of designing, product management, stuff like that. I love it. Just the era I grew up, which was like the late 80s, early 90s, was kind of the beginning of the explosion of both the PC computer age and the internet age. And so that's just the area of, I think, invention that was most accessible to me. And so I've kind of always been a self-starter and a hacker and an experimenter. And in my adult life, that has translated into me spending a lot of time in startups. So I've been an early employee at a handful of startups, and then I've co-founded a couple, including Heirloom, which is the company that I'm building right now.
Great. And what do you love about what you do?
Oh yeah, I forgot that part. That's the best. What do I love? I'll give you hopefully a novel answer as to why I love being a founder of a company. I love people and I love collaborating with people, particularly creatively. When you're the co-founder of a company, you by definition get to control the mixture and composition of the team of people that you collaborate with on a daily basis. And something that my co-founder and I, a very strong rule we have. I don't know if mild swearing is allowed on this podcast, but we have like a no assholes rule. So everybody on our team is an absolute delight, a great collaborator, a creative, hardworking person. And just that energy is my favorite part of my job. Waking up and looking forward to, I'm not joking, every single interaction I have with my team is really, really special. Obviously, being a co-founder, your kind of thumb is on the scales because if someone is in your opinion an asshole, they're probably never made it onto your team in the first place. A little bit of a selection bias there, but it's really, really wonderful and invigorating, and I'm just so proud of the team that we've built. So I think the people side is my favorite part, and that's directly connected to the kind of creation side of things.
I think that's important. I think often we think about just companies and just kind of being, I don't know, like a mill where you just kind of go through. So I think it's important to hear from a founder. I think that building your company and having your people, it reminds me of watching the WeWork episodes where he wanted every person on his team to be an asshole. So it's nice to hear that everyone does not want to have that,
I was so scared you were about to say like, oh yeah, Adam Newman at WeWork is exactly like you. And I was going to have a panic attack. You hit the nail on the head. And so many people at so many companies just like, yeah, I'm just working to live, or from the perspective of leadership of the company, people are expendable. I couldn't disagree with that. Well, I mean, look, I agree with your analysis or your observation of the way the world. I couldn't disagree with that perspective more from a personal values standpoint, because the way I look at it is like, look, my time is valuable and everyone on my team's time is valuable. And a lot of us have kids running around, pets, houses, mortgages, lovers, family that are sick, family that are getting old. Like our time is so valuable, even in a non-monetary way. And if I'm going to wake up and like consent to like spending a huge chunk of that time that I'm not spending with, an aging parent or a little kid that I love, one of my own children, well, that's really sacred, right? And we better make damn good use of that time together. And so, I don't think I could look a member of my team in the eye if I felt like I was wasting their time, because I know that they could just pick up and walk away and do something with some other team that is super valuable. And I think that's like a really, I don't know, it's a really strong web of trust we've built on our team, where we all kind of proverbially shake hands and say, like, let's not waste each other's time. Let's kick butt. Let's take names and let's see what we can do together. So, my wish for the world is that more teams can be like our team in that way.
Yeah, I think that's just a valuable perspective for anyone. We have a lot of people who are, ed tech founders, or maybe teachers looking to transition into different spaces, or maybe educators still in the space learning about new products. So I think it's just good to hear the perspective of, I can feel your passion running through, but your passion for your team is also important.
Thank
I think that translates to a product in which you're building. So maybe on that note, you can tell us a little bit about Heirloom and some of the work that you guys do.
Every piece of software, or most pieces of software that all of us use on a day-to-day basis, involve databases. Databases is even kind of a jargony term. Think about it as like an Excel spreadsheet. When you use Instagram, which probably everyone listening uses Instagram, every photo you see is stored in a database. Every like is stored in a database space. Every comment is stored in a database. And most databases are owned and managed and controlled by the company or the business that runs or builds that product, right? So I guess Meta, formerly Facebook, owns and controls the Instagram database. And so every time you like something or comment on something, information's going into a database. And anytime, if I follow you, I pull it up and I see it and I read it, I'm retrieving that out of a database. So databases are everywhere. And the problem with databases is that they're really easy to mess up. And if you've ever read an article about either a database going down and data being lost, or a database being compromised, like your email and password was leaked by Target or something, right? What that is it's a database that has gone wrong, either by accident because someone made a mistake, or on purpose, someone maliciously compromised that database, right? So now I want you to think about your digital identity, right? Most people, when you say digital identity, they think about maybe their LinkedIn profile, or they think maybe about their email account, or maybe they think about like their mobile number through Verizon or AT&T. And this is like the foundation of your digital identity. When you log into something, right, you're using those pieces of data. And all of those pieces of data are owned or controlled by some company that got some database that could be on purpose or by accident compromised. Blockchains are Blockchains are really, really big databases that nobody owns and nobody controls. And they're really hard to mess up on purpose or by accident. And we can get in, if you want to, we can get into some of the why or the how, but that was the explanation that really opened my mind up to blockchains, is that they're just databases that nobody owns and nobody controls, and they're really hard to mess up. And why is that powerful? Well, it's powerful because no government can seize it. No hacker group can compromise the whole thing. And if someone makes a mistake, there is a kind of error correction mechanism with blockchains that basically identifies mistakes, checks a bunch of other copies of the database, and then fixes it, right? So that's my attempt at a normal cocktail party explanation of a blockchain. And if you have feedback for me, I am all ears. Now, with that context, what does Heirloom do? Heirloom builds tools that lets you establish your digital identity on a blockchain, and you own and control it forever. Heirloom doesn't own and control it. Verizon doesn't own and control it. Google doesn't own and control it. You own and control it. And then we build tools for other businesses and other companies to interact with those what are called decentralized identities that live on blockchains. And this could be anything from logging into a website all the way down to a university issuing you a degree that says that Lena has a degree in computer science and she graduated in 2021 with a 4.0 GPA. And Lena can then take that data and go leverage it wherever she wants to, applying for a job, populating the data into a social network like LinkedIn, et cetera. So these are really, really powerful tools, and education is a really important vertical to us because we think of education as one of a very small handful of industry verticals that form our de facto identity, digital or otherwise. And they have for decades, if not centuries. And so we think it's a really important area for us to bring innovation. And from the perspective of education, using our tools often does two really important things. It improves the experience of students and alumni, and it also lowers administrative costs. And those are both huge drivers of value for education customers, particularly in higher ed. So I'll pause. I've been talking a long time. Any feedback from you or follow-up questions on either the explanation of blockchains or what we're doing in higher ed would be deeply, deeply appreciated.
Yeah, I think your explanation on blockchain is perfect. I think a lot of people don't understand how it works. And I think that we talk in very fancy jargon. And so for the everyday listener, they're probably trying to Google what blockchain means while we're having a discussion. So it's nice to have it in more layman's terms to kind of understand. But as far as decentralized identity, I think a good example of, obviously, you mentioned how it's being used, and we can talk about it in a little bit more detail. But my mom, who just recently got a new job, she needed to, the background agency couldn't find her high school diploma, let's just say.
Yeah.
So she needs it for her job, but she graduated many moons ago. And so if you call the high school and you're like, hey, can I get the diploma for this person? They have to go to their big vault of papers that they've had stored over years and years and years and tried to find this one person's diploma. So why is having a decentralized identity so important for colleges, universities, and even for the industry in which we work?
Yeah. It's a great question, and it's pretty deep, and I'm going to try to answer it quickly, hold my feet to the fire on this. I think it has to do with trust, right? Like, we all need to rely on trust to interact with one another. And we're all constantly relying on trust. And when we do that in person in our interactions, we're actually relying on millions, if not billions of years of hardware that is evolved into our brains and bodies to help us facilitate that, right? So, like, example, for anyone that's like really raising an eyebrow right now, right? Your mom could dress up for Halloween and completely change her appearance. But the minute she opens her mouth and says one word to you, you know it's your mom, because you know your mom's tone of voice, you know her body language, you know, probably consciously or subconsciously know the way your mom smells, right? Like, these are all identity verification algorithms that are just running constantly in our brains because we're social animals and we evolved because these things are really, really important, right? But about 25 years ago, we started moving a lot of these interactions from, hi, mom, it's Halloween, let's go trick-or-treating, to the internet. And now a lot of those modalities that we use to verify the identity of people are gone, right? So you might get an email from someone saying it's your mom, or you might get a text message from someone saying it's your mom, or you might get a monetary wire to your bank account from someone that says it's your mom. And it might actually be your mom, but it might be someone pretending to be your mom, et cetera, right? And so we've only had 25, 30 years tops to like figure these problems out versus like, let's be conservative and say a few million years to figure it out as a species. So what have we done? Okay, we created a thing called passwords. Awesome. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is one of the most common passwords. Easy to guess, easy to accidentally have a leak on the internet. easy to share, right? Which you might want to do in the case of, let's say, a Netflix password, but Netflix doesn't want you to, right? So online, a lot of these mechanisms that we use to manage or police or facilitate identity are really, really hacky. And so decentralized identity is this really cutting edge space that does a couple things really well. Now, no mechanism is perfect, but it does a couple things really, really well. One, the example you gave about your mom getting a new job and then needing to verify her high school. What are they doing there? They're basically just trying to validate, is Lena's mom who she said she is or not? And they might do that in a few ways, but one way they might choose to do that is look up her high school transcript. Now, they could ask Lena's mom, but Lena's mom might have an incentive to lie about that, right? So it's a trust issue. There's no long-term rapport or built-up trust between Lena's mom and the company. So they're going to rely on an institution, right? Now, what are these institutions often? A government. Do you have a birth certificate? Okay, I rely on the county of Los Angeles to say that this person is a citizen and was born here. A degree from a high school or a university. Okay, that institution might be famous or obscure, but it says that Lena's mom exists. A driver's license, right? The state says Lena's mom can drive with corrective lenses and whatever. And so this is just transferred trust, right? The employer is saying, great, we've met Lena's mom can do the job, but let's just reinforce that trust by borrowing a little bit of it from elsewhere. And that's totally valid and awesome. In fact, going back to the millions of years of humans evolving, we do this all the time. Hey, Lena, this is my friend JW. I've known him for years. We had a beer last week. He wanted to introduce us. He thinks we'd really get along well, right? So now you've borrowed a little bit of trust from JW to meet me, and now we might not be best friends. You might not give me your social security number, but you'll talk to me and trust me and think I'm not going to be a total weirdo, right? So this is something that we evolved to do, and now what's going on with your mom and her new job is the digital way of trying to do the same thing, transfer trust from elsewhere, and it's hard. And even today, when we do it, when your mom got this job, right, it's slow, right? Even with all the technology in the world. All right, what are you going to do? Email someone, call someone, have someone send a PDF of a transcript that you don't know if it's been manipulated in Photoshop. Maybe you guys still have a fax machine for some reason and the school faxes it to you. Maybe they charge you a fee. Maybe they need to spend 3 or 4 days looking it up in the archives or on microfiche, right? This is really, really slow. So with decentralized identity, man, this is a really long answer to your question. I'm really sorry. I'm self-conscious now. With decentralized identity, we basically use cutting-edge cryptography and math and a database that's really hard to mess up on purpose or by accident called a blockchain to establish this is Lena's mom. Only Lena's mom can have the keys to this identity, and there's a signed claim associated with Lena's mom's identity that says she graduated from high school in whatever year. And it's signed by the identifier of the high school or the college or the state DMV or the county, right? And once a counterparty, like the hirer, the employer, can independently verify that, and look, nobody's got a cryptographer on staff that's checking the numbers with a pencil and paper, but there are software tools to facilitate this all really fast. To say, oh, this all checks out. This hasn't been manipulated. It was really the high school or university that signed it. We're good to go. And that can be done in milliseconds using technology. And that dramatically streamlines so many administrative processes in the world. Everything from, can I sign into this Netflix account, to can this person get top secret clearance in the government, right? But this pattern happens over and over and over again in our society and civilization. And it has since before the internet or before computers. So that might be a record for the longest answer. And I hope
I think it was a great answer, because I think that a lot of people just don't really, we hear these words and we see these things happening, but we don't really understand what is actually going on. So I think being able to lay things out for people to understand what the heck this is. Why is this important to me? Why do I care about this issue? I think those are, that's really important. And you mentioned earlier at the beginning, that investing heavily in education and having these, decentralized identities for universities specifically is probably the most important one, because when we go to get hired, when I was a teacher, we had to send our transcripts in to make sure that that's what I did. So if there was a much easier process, it takes weeks, months, sometimes.
Imagine a button. Yeah. Imagine a button that's as fast to log into as signing into your Gmail account. And imagine being able to prove when you apply to a new job that you are who you say you are and that you've got the experience you say you do. I think that's pretty exciting. And I think that has the potential to really add a lot of value to you as an applicant to a job, to your employer, to the economy at large. We joke sometimes that this is like $1 trillion bill lying on the sidewalk that the economy could pick up. And we're not alone in working on these problems. I mean, there are a lot of really great companies that are working on this same technology and on these same problems. So I think it's a matter of time. I think I could get abducted by aliens today, and by the end of this decade, you're going to have a decentralized identity. You may not even know it, but you will have one, and you will use it to conduct business. And I think that's happening with or without us. We just want to be players in the game.
I think that's great. We talked a little bit offline, and we'll bring it now online, a little bit about Heirloom Labs and how you're kind of helping to support others through what you're building.
Yeah. So as I'm sure I don't mean this as a diss to anybody, but as I'm sure you have experience with, and I'm sure this is not going to sound crazy, the education space can be cautious of new technology. They can be cautious of new technology. And they can be slow and deliberative in making their decisions, because and let's not disparage that, because there's a lot at stake, right? And you've got the data and identities and the livelihoods of a lot of people at stake. And so, of course, you're going to be deliberative. So even though we work directly at an administrative level with some great universities, including the University of Southern California here in Los Angeles, we have an even bigger and faster growing program that we launched, and it's called Heirloom Labs. And Heirloom Labs gives free access and early beta access to all of our technology. So free access to our APIs and our SDKs to student groups. And student groups, what we most often see are computer science groups, blockchain enthusiast groups, startup or business entrepreneurship groups at universities that really, really, really want to experiment with our tools to do various things, from taking attendance at a meeting to building passwordless login to a piece of software they're building, to checking the age of people at a party that has alcohol at the party, right? And so we're seeing so many student groups experiment so much with our technology. And what we get out of it is we learn faster from those student groups. So we've got, I think at last count, 14 or 15 great universities across the country that are using our products and our technologies through Heirloom Labs. And I'm going to shamelessly plug, if anyone listening either is a student in a student group and is interested in hacking with our technologies, or if you're an administrator in education and you want to talk about how we can improve your student experience and decrease administrative costs, I am all ears. I love talking to new people, and at very least, I will listen to your problems and maybe tell you that we cannot solve them, but be a friendly and collaborative ear to learn from. At most, we'll actually solve some problems together.
I don't know. I think oftentimes we think so heavily about, just going on one side of the business. But I think what hit a chord or struck a chord with me was talking about how, how you're actually learning from how the students are using this technology that you're able to use and leverage in different ways. And it's almost like a research group basically for you, like, hey, build whatever you're building and let's see how you're doing it. So then it can also help you grow and evolve too. I just think that's a neat way to do it, because students are, sometimes you just need to check IDs at a party, who knows what you need to do with your technology.
Exactly right.
Okay. And so we talked about decentralized identity, and those types of things. But what should students or universities or that type of a environment be thinking about, with this technology? Or should recruiters be thinking about how, like, should
100%.
also companies be using this on the other side? So talk a little bit about maybe that piece.
Honestly, I think whether everyone should be thinking about this actively, this will impact everybody. I am certain of that. Like, this is a really foundational technology that is coming in the next 5 to 10 years. Kind of like I said, no matter what I do about it, I think this is happening. And some huge companies like Microsoft are working on this and rolling this out already. So as far as who should be thinking about this, I think anybody that touches data that's really mission critical, that you're worried about it, you might be worried about it being compromised. You might be worried about it being inaccurate. You might be worried about it being slow to access. Like, all of these use cases, I think the stories we've told in the education and hiring spaces, I think, are pretty clear. But like, I've talked to representatives in the healthcare industry that have said, wow, if our patients could take custody of their own patient data and then consent to sharing it with any counterparty, like, that's not only valuable, but also HIPAA compliant, and not the way that it works today. That's really interesting. I've had conversations with in the insurance industry that have said, wow, when two people get in a car accident and they exchange insurance, if one of them has incorrect or expired or misrepresentative insurance policies, that could be a nightmare and a mess. And it would really be great if we could verify that in milliseconds as two people on the side of the road are exchanging insurance information. There are so many industries. I think probably every industry could benefit from the technologies that we're working on. But the but here is, as a startup, we have to start somewhere, and we have to drive immediate value somewhere. And we think that higher ed, specifically in education generally, is a really great place to start.
Yeah, I think so too. And you mentioned healthcare, which we know healthcare is also slow to change, just like education. Hopefully that happens sooner than later. How annoying is it being like, hey, can you release my records? Can you fax it to my doctor's office?
Yeah.
Having these abilities will really change our life, and also just make our lives a little bit more efficient as we go through, rather than having to wait on the snail mail trail of,
I bet you're dealing with this more than most right now.
I sure am. So it's probably like really top of mind.
Yep.
But I think that's really great. Well, Nick, do you have any lasting thoughts, feelings, before we close out today's interview?
I mean, my lasting thoughts and feelings are thank you. And I've really enjoyed talking to you. And I hope my wordy answers introduce some new concepts to someone out there. Second thing, I really do want to underscore Heirloom Labs. I just think we are so excited about putting new technology into the hands of young people, young, bright minds, and reducing friction. So what better way to reduce friction than to make it free and just say, go break it, right? Like, the worst thing that could happen is you break it, and then we learn and we fix it. So really want to plug Heirloom Labs. And if anyone listening, like I said, knows or is in a student group and wants to learn more, our website's heirloom.io. You'll find some literature there on Heirloom Labs. And I would also encourage everyone to think about your own work and ways in which these technologies will impact your jobs, hopefully for the better. And I think for the better. And again, whether you're working with Heirloom or not, these technologies are coming like a freight train. And I hope I can be a helpful resource along the way. So please don't be shy to reach out to me. In fact, my email is nick@heirloom.io. You can just email me and tell me what you think. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Nick, for joining us today on today's episode. And thank you so much to our listeners and to our audience. We want to make sure that you check us out anywhere where you check out your podcasts on any platform. Full episodes, the video episodes are always available on MarketScale's website. And as always, you can find resources below in the show notes. Thank you again. And don't forget to always keep learning. Bye, everybody.